feel good stuff is not really
And that's
what
not my
we
thing.
want to
Yeah.
talk about.
No.
Dr. Ram, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Tammy.
I'm so happy to have you. Dr. Ramani Durvasula is somebody I've known for about 8 years.
Yeah.
I was in television. She has been a professor at Cal State LA, a PhD in psychology. She's written the book. The first one is You Are Why You Eat, which was really fascinating. The second one is Should I Stay or Should I Go? The guide to sort of dealing with narcissists. Dr. Ram, tell us, what exactly is a narcissist and why are they all around us so much?
A narcissist is, simply put, a person who lacks empathy, is deeply entitled, they're grandiose, they're arrogant, they're very superficial, they're constantly seeking validation, they're really superficial, they're very rageful if they don't get their way, and they have a tendency to manipulate and exploit other people. Absolutely lovely, you would think. But on the other side, people will say, well, they're so awful. How did I even fall in with one? Or it's because on the front end, they're often quite charming, charismatic, and quite confident. That's the stuff that draws us in. And then once you peel back one layer, this is what you're dealing with. By that time, too many people are too in. And it's not just partners, Tammy. This can be parents, friends, siblings, coworkers, bosses. So and my next book that's coming out next year takes on the fact that this isn't just partners, it is everywhere. It's everywhere.
Why though? Why now? You know, I think, is it the social media world? Is it the digital craze? Like, why is that word? I never heard that word 10 years ago.
No, you didn't. And in fact, 10 years ago, I just got into this narcissism game, and I thought I would just be quietly working on this topic in a back room. I never thought it would become a front office issue. And I'll tell you a couple of things. I agree with you. Social media was huge. People learned to live their lives in the name of validation. And what happened was people were like, no, I'm building my brand. I'm building my brand. I'm like, you're treating yourself like you're a can of soda. That's probably not a safe way for a person to walk around talking about what their brand is without doing the inner work. So that's one thing. Second is reality TV. Reality TV and this idea of get rich quick and get famous overnight, and the more outlandish your behavior and the more shameful your behavior, the better it was. We also had the proliferation of platforms like YouTube and everything like that, which was making people sort of giving the sense of overnight fame. But I got to tell you, Tammy, those are the low-hanging fruit. This is really an issue of insecurity because narcissists are pathologically insecure. This speaks to something deeper and darker in our culture, in that narcissism is really a disorder of insecurity and inability to regulate your mood and your feelings. And we've become a very insecure world, whether it's economically. And the fact is, the only reason consumerism works is because people feel insecure. I got to lose weight. If I had that dress, I'd be so much better off. If I had that car, people would like me better. That's how consumerism works. The more insecure we are, the better the economy is. We've never been more insecure. The economy's never been better.
Wow. Crazy. It's so crazy because we're all living with some.
Yes, we are.
Working with them.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. They're at every corner.
Yeah.
You talk about it as being insecure, but those are the people who are trying to emulate, I've got it all going on. So if you called them insecure, it seems to me like they wouldn't even be, they would say, that's not me. Like
I agree. And let's go, even going back to your prior question, the bigger issue of why it's getting to be more and more prevalent is we're rewarding it as a society. It's almost like we don't care how bad a leader behaves. We don't care how bad a celebrity behaves. We don't care how bad, when I say leader, I mean a leader of anything, a country, a corporation, a university, you name it. We don't care as long as they get results. And we've become such a results-focused culture, we stopped caring about character a long time ago. And so that's something that's really been shifting in the last 10 years too. So now people are viewing the diagnosis of narcissism, or sort of the description, I should say, of narcissism as a playbook for success. So you're right, Tammy, but I got to tell you, sitting here in the therapy room I work in, what I do see is once a narcissist doesn't get their way, they get really dark. Sometimes they get really ashamed, like if they do something bad, and they get really depressed because they're like spoiled children. If they don't get their way, they get very sullen. Sometimes with their sullenness, they show up to therapy with someone like me. And when you start peeling, you're scraping just the top level of paint, you see that you're dealing with something really, really dark. And these are people who will say, I spent my whole, for example, a lot of people who are narcissistic will say that they were over and under validated by their parents. At one level, their parents would give them so much attention if they were pretty, or they danced well, or they were the best on the soccer team, or they got straight A's, or they went to Harvard. Their parents were like their cheerleaders and bragging about them, and, talking about them all the time. But the minute that child had an emotional need, hey mom, I'm not feeling soccer anymore, I'm really anxious, the parents were nowhere to be found. So they had these really well cultivated exterior worlds and absolutely no cultivation of their interior worlds. And that meant as long as the superficial train was heading into the station, they were doing great. But that that's not sustainable for anyone. So the first time real life happened, they couldn't handle it, and it gets real ugly real fast.
Are you saying these helicopter parents who keep telling their kids how fabulous they are for winning fourth prize are really breeding narcissists?
They really are, because what these kids are learning is, and here's where it's not, the poor kids are very strategic. It's not like the kids are rubbing their hands saying, yeah, I want a trophy. Like every child since time immemorial, all a child wants is the love and the regard of their parents. That's all a kid wants. And if a kid believes by getting a trophy, that's how they're going to get love, that's how they're going to do it. If a parent just loved a kid and said, I don't give a damn if you get a trophy, I just love you, that's a place to start. But that's something you got to do when they're small. And a lot of parents are distracted. I see people walking down the street with strollers and they're scrolling through phones. When I had children, I had babies, there were no cell phones. And so it was just before, and if ever there's something I can thank God for, it's that. I don't know if I would have gone there, but it's tempting. And I think when we are not present with our kids, and we've all been guilty of it. I'm not saying 24/7, but I mean emotionally present. The rest of it, whatever. They get the trophy, they don't get the trophy, they go to Harvard, they don't go to Harvard. Who cares? We need to create kids that are built solid. They shouldn't be veneer. They should be solid through and through, not hollow. And we're raising too many hollow kids.
And they're growing into these
hollow adults.
And I was listening to some of your videos earlier today, and you were talking about some research that shows that the millennials and the young people are really the most unhappy today. Why is that?
Well, I think that the problem is they're getting very frustrated at not being able to get the things that they want, right? So they've been told, I mean, listen, if you're told your whole life, you can have running water out of your taps, and then one day you go to your tap and no water's coming out. You're like, call the plumber. Plumber's like, yeah, I can't make water come out of this. You get really frustrated because you're like, God damn it, I'm supposed to have water coming out of the tap. It's the same thing. This whole generation was told, everything fits in the palm of your hand. You can make it all happen right here. And a lot of them are not, they don't like dues paying as much. They're coming into an economy that is relatively unstable. And to their credit, I feel for them. We're not giving them a very easy world. We're giving them a very uncivil, economically disparate, like it's not an easy world they're inheriting, but they are frustrated because they're used to things happening quickly. Video games are quick. The internet is quick. Facebook is quick. In the generation you and I are from, things took a little longer. You did the dues paying. You waited by the phone for the message to come for the job interview, and you did not even leave to go to the bathroom, lest the damn phone call came in while you were going to the bathroom. You'd find a way to take the phone wire all the way into the bathroom with you. It was a different world, and I think this is sort of the dark side of people thinking everyone thinks that they should be on the cover of Forbes. It's one magazine. There's only one cover. Can't all be on it. I have to be honest with you, in the safest and best of worlds, you walk away from a narcissist. You just don't have anything to do with them anymore. You just wash your hands clean. But that's not always possible if it's your husband, or if it's your mother, or if it's your sister, or your boss. Yeah, you can't always do it.
Part of the time, or people you have to deal with.
Yes, you do.
Society, like how do you deal with it?
And you can't always walk away. First of all, you manage expectations. Narcissistic relationships are kept in place by both hope and fear. The hope that someday it's going to get better if we just get through next week, or if I'm just really nice to him or her. And the other piece is fear. Fear that you'll always be alone. Fear that it's not any better with anyone else. Fear that this is as good as it gets. And people are so scared. They're like, all right, this is the devil I know, and maybe this is all I deserve. And so that combination of hope and fear is what keeps all this in place. And I tell people, like, listen, you can set boundaries. And that boundary can be, for example, managing expectations are not going to change. Number two, don't engage with them. Keep it to absolutely bare minimums. When people are in, for example, non-professional relationships like family, partners, friends, I say keep a list of neutral topics in your phone or on a piece of paper. Like, look at that red mailbox, or can you believe that the 405 is so busy? Or I can't believe that allergy season's upon us again. Like, things that they can't criticize for you. You never, ever want to share your accomplishments with them. You never want to share your heartaches with them, because they will poo-poo them. They will demean you. They will invalidate you. Don't give them anything to work with. Stick with the traffic on the freeway or the allergy season. And and then you protect yourself. And on another, in a similar vein though, is also this idea of not engaging. Like when they try, because they'll try to bait you. They will try to bait you.
What? Give me an example.
It could be the kind of thing where your mother's like, someone's narcissistic mother will say, well, here we are again. We're going to your sister's beach house. It's so, God, your sister really knows how to show us all a good time, doesn't she? I mean, like, God, you know, it's good to have at least one kid that got it right. You know, she gives me something to be proud of. You know how you handle that, mother? Say, Mom, I can't wait to go to Mary's beach house. I love our vacations there. And you say, whoops, I gotta go. Done. Finished. You just diffuse the bomb. If it's done, you cut it off. You don't say, Mom, how could you? God, I've worked so hard. You've never been there for me. Meh, 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 meh. Your mother doesn't care, or she wouldn't have said such a horrible thing in the first place. Same thing with a partner who says, oh, really? You got a raise? I mean, you got a new promotion? Did you get a raise? Because if you didn't get a raise, it wasn't a promotion. And they demean your excitement. First of all, you shouldn't have told them in the first place you got a promotion. That was mistake number one. When they do that, say, you know what, you're right, honey. And, you know, I guess I'm just being silly, but I love the job. And I have an upset stomach. I gotta go to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom a lot when you're in a relationship with a narcissist because it's a great out. Whoop, just ate more lactose. That Jerry doesn't agree with me. Bye. So that's another great out. But they'll bait. You don't take that bait. They hate when you don't engage with them and they get very frustrated. It's like watching Rumpelstiltskin. But to your more important point of a boss, that's a different game because here's the thing, it's not going to change with your boss. So you really want to watch the temperature of that workplace. Pay attention. Are people getting advanced or are they getting chewed up and spit up by this boss? Because if that's the case, you may need to very subtly search for the exits, which means maybe a quiet job search. Because this idea of like, I'm going to muscle through. You think of all the Me Too disasters we're hearing about. Those people who worked in those situations thought they could muscle through, put their head down, get through. Sadly, what a lot of those people ended up with was a honking case of PTSD, and they never got the promotions or anything like that. So once you sense that that's the tone and you're probably not going to get advanced, and typically what happens is the narcissistic tyrant is kept in power because they're making the company money. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you have to document everything to the nth degree. You save every email, you save every text, you save every voicemail, because if you want HR to get involved, they're not even going to touch it if you don't have documentation. You don't gossip at work. You don't put stuff on social media. You run an absolutely clean game. You don't take meetings alone. No meetings in hotel bars or any of that nonsense. It's clean. It's in the office. Whenever possible, ask for other people to be present. When that's not possible, see if you can get a recording of the meeting. And if you can't get that, you quickly take notes. And after the meeting, you send a summary of that meeting to that other person. You put a read receipt on it. So at least now there's evidence of, you can say, listen, this is the meeting and he gave me credit for this and so on and so forth. So it's clear what your role is on a project. When it's narcissistic coworkers, same thing. They're going to try to steal credit for your work. You need to keep really, really impeccable records. But as I tell people, over time, it's going to get tired. You see this in the tech industry. Usually people will stick out a company for a year so they can get stock options. There was recently a story about a year or two ago of a guy who did that and he committed suicide. The stress was too much, never got his stock options, but he ended up killing himself. So but none of us are bigger than this. And you have to say, life is short. I am paid to do this, and I'm not quite able to whisper the narcissist. Most people aren't going to be able to outwit this. So it's distance, boundaries, managing expectations, and avoiding engagement with them in the first place.
So we talked a little bit about social media and the idea of this falsehood of what's really going on and the idea of putting BS forward, basically. Mm-hmm. So that the world can think that you have it better than they do. So mm-hmm. that people get on social media or they take their time and they look at this and think, wow, I'm depressed because I don't really have that. But the idea is we're all sort of living in this fake world that's not real. I mean, it's all escalating around us, elevating around us politically, you know, all of this stuff that's sort of being thrown at us. Like, where do we go from here?
Well, number one, keep in mind, it goes back to our original point about insecurity. Social media is built to prey upon insecurity, right? Because it's a tool, it's a way to mainline social comparison. A psychiatrist friend of mine put it beautifully when she said social media is a tool designed to induce envy in others. And it really is. And for all the people saying, no, it's a great way to stay connected around the world. I said, I'm sure it is. But I have to tell you from the front end, sadly, a lot of what it does is it facilitates falsehoods and it facilitates this kind of insecurity. Part of it is, it's like anything. I like M&Ms. I don't eat them morning, noon, and night. You know, it's like knowing with anything that potentially isn't good for you, what the limits of it are. It shouldn't be your sole way of interacting with the world. Catch yourself, ask yourself, you know, are you going out to dinner just so you can tell people you went out to dinner? Like, how often are you authentically engaging in your life? And how often are you Instagram engaging in your life? There's a difference. I think also generationally, it's about really teaching our kids how to be in these spaces. Some research has actually shown that younger people are better at managing social media expectations than adults over the age of 35, because younger people grew up with it. So they almost use it in a very different communication way than people who really do use it to say, look at how great my kids are. Look at how great, I mean, I always say, the more a person says their husband is great on social media, the quicker that marriage is going to end in divorce. So, you know, it's that sense of, look at me, I'm so great. My kids are so great. You know, and sadly, sometimes it's also a cry for help. It's people who don't know how to successfully engage with others. So they use social media as it's almost like a really almost immature, poorly formed way. And I feel for them because it's almost like you want to teach them social skills, and they can get very frustrated. I see people some of my people I've worked with, they'll just stay on it for hours and they'll be depressed by the morning saying everyone has a better life than me. And so I think that we have to train kids at this point. And I think we're getting to a point where management of social media has to be an elementary school, middle school, high school class. People need to this to me is almost more important than multiplication, because it's really taking a tremendous toll on people. But like I said, it all comes back to that insecurity. The narcissists are pathologically insecure. All the rest of us have a certain mid-level of insecurity. But the more we possess these narcissistic spaces, Tammy, the more likely we're going to push the limits on our insecurity too. And that's when people behave badly.
What's the difference, Ron, between a narcissist and a sociopath?
Big difference. There's actually a big difference. A narcissist is somebody who's all those things I said. They lack empathy, they're grandiose, entitled, all of that. A sociopath is pretty much all the things a narcissist is, with one very important addition. And that is they have absolutely no remorse when they do bad things. And so, while a narcissist actually might feel ashamed or even a little bit guilty if they do something and they're caught in it, a scandal, being unfaithful in a relationship, lying to someone and getting caught in the lie, that'll make them uncomfortable. For the sociopath, they'll lie to your face and they won't even flinch, and then they won't even feel bad afterwards. The bigger distinction to make, though, Tammy, is between a sociopath and a psychopath. Because people like to use that word sociopath. It's like a fancy word, but I think they're misusing it a lot of times. A sociopath and a psychopath are very similar creatures. Again, both of them are narcissistic. The psychopath, though, is very smooth and glib and intelligent, articulate, well put together. They're so smooth that you can get tricked by them in a relationship, and before you know it, all your bank accounts are empty and they have, like, you know, killed your cat or something, like dark. Wow. Sociopath tends to be a lot more socially unskilled. They're a bit more on the fringes. Neither group tends to hold steady employment as well. Psychopath might be able to do it. They tend to keep breaking the rules, though, so they might keep getting fired. But a sociopath really is not able to hold a job. They get into conflicts with their bosses, but they tend to be socially very awkward, unskilled.
You're the sociopath,
but not as much. You see some of these really horrible crimes being perpetrated out there. Men who are really angry at women. You know, some of those guys have a real sociopathic feel. They were never socially skilled enough to date in a normal way. And they feel no remorse about killing people or killing women or killing anyone, because they feel like it's their right to do so. And they express very little remorse afterwards. So all sociopaths are narcissistic. All psychopaths are narcissistic. Not all narcissists are psychopathic or sociopathic. Thank God. Or the world would be even more dangerous than it is.
So where do we go from here? How do we get these people out of our lives if we can? And what do we do if we can't? I mean, you talked about great coping skills and all that. But like, it feels like they're just coming in from all around. I mean, it's what happens now?
Number one, stop with the sunshine and rainbows. Okay, love is not going to cure this. This isn't a Disney movie. It's not Beauty and the Beast. Okay, so this is real. And Tammy, where I get angry and I really get, ramped up about this is that I have seen so much human potential lost in these relationships. Wonderful women who are shredded to a shell of themselves. Really lovely men who don't know if they're coming or going or lose custody of their kids. Really nice people who don't understand the gifts they bring because they kept hearing year over year over year, you're not enough, you're not enough, you're stupid, you're an idiot, who would ever listen to you? Who the hell's ever going to take a chance? So to me, I think that the most important thing that we do is, this is not a joke. We do not love this away. I have a very fierce stance on this.
So the idea is, we're just, forget the dream world. This is for real. This
it's for real.
Our society is going down the toilet. I mean, we just have to sort of prepare
to that end, Tammy, be kind and empathic to people, even when they don't show you the same. It's amazing how, as much as narcissism can feel like a virus, so too can empathy, compassion, and kindness. Show it to everyone. The clerk at the gas station, the guy working at the post office, a coworker. You don't know the damn day they had. You don't know what dreams they've had to give up. Bring that everywhere. Bring that smile. Bring that goodness. Try to leave every room with bright eyes and some feeling of goodness behind you, even if they're not being nice. Because if we can push past through us and give some people some kindness, do it. That's what I've been telling everyone. Tend your own garden. And hopefully enough of us tend our own gardens that we create a revolution. We create enough empathic, respectful, mutual spaces. And we put decent fences around them too, so the narcissists can't tromp on our flowers.
And I guess you got to water them too. You got to water.
And you got to take care of you, but you have to pay attention to it and get out of naive notions of second chances and all this other stuff. They may say, I had a tough life history. I get that. You're not responsible for their life history. That does not give them the right to go around and harm other people. It really doesn't. And we shouldn't give permission to that. We're giving permission to this behavior right now. When we give permission to it, it gives everyone permission to behave badly. We've got to change that paradigm.
Really interesting information. Thank you, Dr. Ramani
Durvasula.
She is drramani.com. She wrote this incredible book, Should I Stay or Should I Go? The other one is We Are Why We Eat. She is one of our Campowerment experts. Please check her out on drramani.com. Really, really interesting stuff. Thank you so much. This is stuff that nobody's talking about, and we need to be paying attention to, because the moral fiber of our society is crumbling, and we have to figure out alternate ways to be able to survive in a world where empathy is lacking. Thank you for this. This was awesome. Have a great day.
My pleasure, Tammy.
Thanks so much.